Sorry, yeah?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. We are essentially on the fourth line on page Chav Zayin. The line begins perek Yud. Mur Mokimacher. And we are challenged to understand something extremely, extremely subtle. How is it that there is osiot lifnei tzimtzum, and these osiot do not have the limits of osiot in the sense that like we said, that you can't put Ein Sof into a keli. These osiot do not have that limit. They carry the oir Ein Sof shelifnei hatzimtzum in the osiot themselves, and that. Okay, so to explain that, we have to follow what the Rebbe is starting to say. That the principle in this is that lifnei hatzimtzum there was not the inyan of metziut. Klal u'klal. Categorically not. The inyan of metziut was not present. So we attempted to identify the inyan of metziut in the last couple of days. One way for us to get a little sense what is meant by the inyan of metziut, as I said, only a little sense, is in the phenomenon of thought. Thought is an internal, personal awareness, not expressing it to anybody else. And on the personal level, this is expressing it within the source itself. I think that which I internally know. Even to the extent that it says, "Machshava meshetet stomit," that thought is permanently, is constantly fluttering. There is always thought in the person as long as he's alive.
You should say this means fluttering?
Yeah, flutters. Yeah. There's always thought going through in the person's mind. This thought is not a thought like we normally say, I think through something in order to know it. Without thinking it through, I don't know it. I'm teaching myself. I'm learning from a source and bringing it into my thought. This is not what this thought is about. This thought is knowing yourself. The phenomenon of living, of life, of living in this world is defined as being aware of your life. Give you an example. You should understand what we're pushing at. You hit your hand and it hurts. The hurt is synonymous, is one thing with the hit. You react to the hurt because it hurts. But you're also aware of it. That hurt. That hurt is already in thought. This is not the experience of the hurt itself. But we in thought know exactly, and we immediately are aware of the actual hurt itself. It is not transmitted to our thought.
There's not a second step of...
That's right. It's not transmitted to our thought. The experience of the hit itself is what we are aware in thought. Yet thought is in osiot. What happened? How does it feel? Is it a sharp hit, or is it a dull hit? What is it? We know it all. There is a slight exposure. I said a slight, not exactly, because the way it is above and before the tzimtzum is a completely different, totally different reality. Nonetheless, the human being is a microcosm, is a means to understand things the way they are l'mayla. So there is not a step of transmitting the experience to your thought, although it is in osiot. You're aware of it and you can describe it. Meaning that you can describe it, then you need to think into it and say, how do I feel? But to know it yourself, you don't have to describe it. And yet, that knowledge is also in osiot. What do we mean by osiot in this context? I'm aware that a moment before it didn't hurt, and now it hurt. So therefore, there is something that made me aware of this change, and I'm aware of this change in a manner that lends itself to the description.
So the feeling of pain is one ois. A feeling of pleasure is another ois. Or not feel.
Okay, let me say this. So these are osiot. This is only an example. These are osiot that do not have a limit, in the sense that you can only contain this ois, something which is finite. You can, in these osiot, you can contain whatever happens in the nefesh.
In which osiot the ones that are in which osiot the ones that are becoming thought?
Right. These osiot that we said, that is an automatic awareness in your thought of what happened, what is going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi, does this phenomena, it's a bit of a technical question, but does this phenomena also apply if the person screams out of pain? Like, do these words of pain, or ouch, or ah, do these have the same quality as a wooden thought?
I don't know. I don't know. I have to think through it. This is not for internal consumption. This is for external expression.
We began talking about thought
because we want to understand the words in the Maimar, where it says that before tzimtzum there was not the union of metziut. As we say, the oisios or the rishimu are not b'chinas metziut oisios. The whole difficulty that we are faced with, that we're trying to put in some kind of a perspective, is the principle that the oisios of the rishimu carried the oiris of lifnei hatzimtzum, the bligvul element of that oiris, and yet it's bligvul and it is carried in oisios.
just like somehow we have osios of thought that contain bligvul elements.
Yeah, the neshama experience. We did not yet discuss the bligvul element in these oisios. What we discussed is the lack of metziut of these oisios. The absence of metziut, not the bligvul element.
Do we have a way to understand that our thoughts, they're oisios in thoughts?
Yeah.
Do we have a way to sense or say something about that, or we just accept that's the nature of thoughts?
The principle of oisios in thought, again, we have to focus on something extremely subtle. And the principle in this is this. Like we mentioned many times, you open your eyes and at a glance you see the entire expanse. Everything that there is to be seen. From your vantage point right now, you see it at a glance. And yet, you see everything within this expanse of space. Is this literally one glance? Or is this definable in many aspects in this glance?
Many aspects.
We say it's one glance, but then we do say we can separate out items, so
you can break it out. In other words, although you said it takes only but an instant, but in this instant, and we are fully aware of this, there is an entire expanse consisting of many, an infinite a number of detail.
Okay, so this is a mashal for the inner landscape, but why wouldn't it be that?
1 second.
Yeah.
What is osios?
These defined elements, I'm thinking.
Osios is the breakdown of a thought. Now we don't think in a manner of getting together all the details in creating a thought. We go the opposite direction.
And you see the.
But in the thought we have all the things that that are the ingredients of that thought. It is contained in that thought with all its breakdown.
I think I'm getting that in the mashal things are composite, and that's part of being in the world. But why would one's inner life and a direct thought also be composite, have the ability to be deconstructed into letters?
Okay, this is the question that was asked yesterday, and I delayed it. Let me give you a little bit of a step towards that, and then you won't be bothered by this. In the talk, it's on the blog right now, that is identified as decision making. Hope everybody takes advantage of this. I explained a very simple principle. There's a pasuk that says, "Kam ha'olam nosam b'libo," that the world was inserted, Hashem inserted the world into the heart of man. Which means that man, the human being, is not an entity unto itself. Along with human being came his awareness of the world. It's inseparable. His awareness of the world and awareness of himself are inseparable. And being himself are inseparable. The reason for that is that the very concept of the human being, the very concept, the initial plan of bringing the human being in the world was to have him direct and contain the world. This is the definition of a human being. In other words, a human being, even though he has the koyach ha-chochma and he has a munah, he has the point of reality, in that point is contained an infinite conglomeration of detail, which enables him to deal with everything in the world.
Contained in his chokhmah and emunah are an infinite number of details that relate to the world.
That's right. That you can translate in practical in the world. Rashi brings down from Medrash, when the Rebbe created the world, he created Adam and Eve. So it says, "Sovar aforei mikol ha'olam." Hashem gathered, created Adam and Eve from earth. He made first the form Ofer min ha'adama. Ofer min ha'adama means, Ofer min ha'adama, Ofer is ha'adama. Ofer min ha'adama means I gathered from the whole world. He took a sampling of earth. And that he brought together and made Adam. What for? What's the point of that? The answer is that wherever he will be buried, the earth should be able to accept him. He will not be rejected. I can relate to you. You're not a foreign object, not an intruder. What's in that? We have to understand the reason that we can pick up anything presented to us with a seichel, with oisios, and we should be able to understand it, is because it is already imbued, because we contain everything initially. This is the famous aha. What's the aha?
You recognition.
recognition, but he never knew it. How did he recognize?
He did know.
It fits. Ultimately, what we learn fits into some place into our mind. Even though this is the first time we ever learned it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hear, but I mean, we also say that he blew into us, and that's the real life element, and that blowing comes from his inner world, and
Absolutely.
and that seems to be outside of.
He blew, but he blew into us, and then it becomes absorbed in our being, in our body.
That blowing or that inner life seems removed from all the details and letters and words.
True, and yet it is disseminable into letters and words. In other words, there is a nakuda, like in nakudas hu emunah. Nakudas hu emunah ultimately ends up to be able to be absorbed and recognized in chokhmah, and nakudas ha-chokhmah can be absorbed in bina, and bina can be absorbed in midas.
And that's to say the reason Bina can deal with it is because there's already oasis in that.
That's right, because there's already oasis in the chokhmah.
That flash has
That's right.
formatting, has letters there.
There is already the possibility in chokhmah to feed into bina. Because the whole world, the whole existence, the whole reality, as what we call reality, is a godly creation. And it is a godly creation with a godly aim and purpose. The infinity that is godliness has been imbued in every detail in the world. There is not a spot in the world that you can say, this is outside of the godly purview. Okay, so we went into this discussion. This is why there is osiot. Because the whole phenomenon of creation, whole phenomenon of the godly revelation, of revealing himself, is so that himself should be known in the world. And this is why, like we learned in the Tanya in the last 3 days, a simple mitzvah, physical act in this world, that is a mitzvah, contains the highest real truth. The Rebbe says, you hold an esrig, you learn an esrig. Which is found that Dvar Hashem that creates this esrig. You're holding the Dvar Hashem in your hand. Yeah.
So this doesn't mean that the letters have no metzius. They're bittul metzius, but they have. If they didn't have metzius, we wouldn't think them. We couldn't experience them.
we're not experiencing them. We're experiencing the content of the others.
The content that there's a Eibishter.
Yeah. We're experiencing the oisios. Then we can draw from that further down. But the experience of Chafad is not consistent in the experience of letters. Okay, let me just say 2 words of something that we have that we were up to the last few days. Okay, in the 4th line, after the word ba'orech, so it's explained elsewhere, shezehu, that this phenomenon of oisius of the Rishimu is k'moi ha'oisius shebaluchis. It's like the oisius in the luchis. The oisius shebaluchis, these oisius, okay, I just want to go to one moment. We can go. Oisius shebaluchis, we'll say about carved into the luchis. So what held up the oisius? The stone of the luchis, of the luchis. But that's not exactly what happened. The oisius shebaluchis are the oisius of the Haseres HaDibros. And they were contained in the luchis. And as the story is, when Moshe Rabbeinu came down the mountain and he saw the egel, the oisius flew out of the luchis. As a result of that, the luchis became extremely heavy. Those 2 tablets of stone were just much too much for a human being to hold in 2 hands, 2 tablets. And he dropped them. Although it was an accident, he dropped them also. He knew what he was doing. But the point is, but at the same time, there was also this phenomenon, the oisius flew out. So these oisius in the luchis, they were oisius in the luchis, they were not imbued or hewed into the luchis. The luchis were maseh elikim, and these luchis contained these oisius. The luchis, the whole luch consisted of these oisius. And when the oisius flew out, then the luch became a regular stone. So, we are expressing it, not with the hope of being able to understand it, but just to answer the question, how is it that these oisius contain an oy bli gvul? These are a different kind of oisius. It's not oisius that are add on to the metziut. There's no metziut. Okay, we reach him tonight and we'll pursue this a little further. Have a great day.